Hello, all you freedom-loving people. DOGE regained access to the OPM, Education, and Treasury departments. The National Guard arrived in D.C. to help crack down on crime and homelessness, and Governor Abbott took steps to vacate Jean Woo's seat. Okay, let's get into it. Today, 800 National Guard members who were deployed by the Trump administration arrived in Washington, D.C., while the police and federal officials have already taken the first steps. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt at the press briefing discussed the latest developments.
Approximately 850 officers and agents were surged across the city. They made a total of 23 arrests, including multiple other contacts. Last night, these arrests consisted of homicide, firearms offenses, possession with intent to distribute narcotics, fare evasion, lewd acts, stalking, possession of a high-capacity magazine, fleeing to elude in a vehicle, no permits, driving under the influence, reckless driving, and a bench warrant.
Leavitt also spoke about the upcoming meeting between President Trump and Russian President Putin, which will be held in Anchorage, Alaska on August 15th. Today, the White House announced that President Zelensky won't be at the meeting, and Leavitt explained more when a reporter asked about the reason.
The meeting came about because the president of Russia asked the president of the United States to meet through his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, who, as you all know, traveled to Russia to have a conversation with Putin at his request. And so the president is agreeing to this meeting at the request of President Putin. And the goal of this meeting for the president is to walk away with a better understanding of how we can end this war. And the president said at this podium yesterday when he joined all of you in the room that he hopes in the future there can be a trilateral meeting with these three leaders to finally bring this conflict to an end. But this administration has really used every lever, has taken every measure to achieve peace through a diplomatic solution. And I think the president of the United States getting in the room with the president of Russia, sitting face to face rather than speaking over the telephone, will give this president the best indication of how to end this war and where this is headed.
And in other news today, an appeals court removed a block that was imposed on the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, that previously prevented it from accessing data within various government departments. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit said that the judge who issued the block erred in weighing how likely it was that the plaintiffs would succeed in their ongoing lawsuit against the Trump administration. Judge Julius Richardson said that in this particular lawsuit, the plaintiffs were unlikely to prove that they had standing or that DOGE's activities violated federal law. Back in February, a group of individuals and unions sued DOGE, and they alleged that DOGE was steamrolling into sensitive government record systems and compromising the safety of Americans' personal information. So, U.S. District Judge Deborah Boardman issued a preliminary injunction and blocked the Department of Education, the Office of Personnel Management, and the Treasury Department from disclosing the plaintiffs' information to any DOGE affiliates. But Judge Richardson compared DOGE to a consultant who was tasked with improving the efficiency of a local library. He said, barring the consultant at the library doors and requiring her to specify the precise records she needs to improve the library before she knows what improvements are needed would seem to get the order of operations precisely backwards. Yesterday, the Texas Supreme Court set an expedited schedule for briefs to be filed by the parties who are involved in the lawsuit that was filed by Governor Greg Abbott to vacate the House seat of Representative Jean Woo. Under the expedited schedule, Governor Abbott must file his brief by August 20th, and the respondents must file their response brief by August 29th. Then, if necessary, Governor Abbott has until September 4th to file a reply. In a statement on X, Governor Abbott stated that the order from the Texas Supreme Court means that the consequences for the fleeing House Democrats are one step closer. Previously, we reported that Governor Abbott filed a lawsuit against Representative Woo last week to declare his seat vacant. Woo is the chairman of the House Democratic Caucus. The lawsuit came after Texas House Democrats refused the order to return, which forced Abbott to order their arrest. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has also filed a lawsuit against 13 House Democrats who fled the state. The House Democrats fled Texas earlier this month in order to break quorum and to block the passage of a new congressional redistricting map. This was the second time that House Democrats have fled the state in the past 4 years. On Monday, President Trump nominated economist E.J. Antony as the new Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner. Antony is currently the chief economist at the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation is an influential conservative think tank. Antony has a PhD in economics, and he previously worked as an economist at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. He taught university courses on labor, economics, money, and banking. Antony will need to be confirmed by the Senate. If he is, he'll take over the agency, which had a staff of 2,300 as of September 2024. The nomination came after President Trump fired Erica McIntyre, the previous commissioner, after the July jobs report. President Trump alleged that McIntyre manipulated data for political purposes. According to President Trump, in the Bureau of Labor Statistics report, job figures for July were lower than expected. And the agency also issued an unusually large revision to its May and June figures, reducing job creation numbers across the 2 months by nearly 260,000. Recently, and before his nomination, in an interview with Fox News, Antony criticized the data behind the monthly job report as unreliable and frequently overstated, and he warned that it misleads key economic decision makers from Washington to Wall Street. Antony also suggested by saying, until it is corrected, the BLS should suspend issuing the monthly job report, but keep publishing the more accurate, though less timely, quarterly data. And today, Caroline Levitt also confirmed that monthly job reports may be suspended.
I think he floated the idea of possibly suspending until they can get the data and the methodology in order. And this president wants to ensure that the BLS, again, is putting out accurate and honest data that the American people can trust. Since you brought up the new commissioner, he holds a master's and doctor's degree in economics from Northern Illinois University. He's the chief economist in the Heritage Foundation's Center for the Federal Budget. And in addition to his work at Heritage, he has multiple other roles. He's been widely renowned for his work on economic issues. He's been called before Congress to testify as an economic expert. So he's a qualified individual, and the president trusts him to lead this important department.
On Monday, President Trump met with Intel CEO Lip-Bu Tan at the White House, accompanied by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. The president's attitude has softened somewhat since last week. President Trump wrote on True Social, "The meeting was a very interesting one. His success and rise is an amazing story. Mr. Tan and my cabinet members are going to spend time together and bring suggestions to me during the next week." Intel is now at a crossroads. On the one hand, there is President Trump's harsh criticism, and on the other hand, there is their huge investment in China. This conflict was exposed in the spotlight last Thursday when President Trump requested that Intel CEO Lip-Bu Tan resign immediately. President Trump's dissatisfaction is related to Tan's close ties with the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. Born in Malaysia, Lip-Bu Tan is a Chinese American. He was appointed CEO of Intel in March of this year. Before joining Intel, he worked for the Chinese company Cadence Design for more than a decade. In 1987, Tan founded the venture capital firm Walden International in the United States. In 1993, Walden International entered China on the recommendation of the Ministry of Finance and the State Science and Technology Commission, now the Ministry of Science and Technology. It became one of the first foreign institutions to enter the China venture capital market. In return, for more than 30 years, Walden International has invested more than $5 billion in more than 600 companies, including more than 100 investments in mainland China, at least 8 of which are linked to the Chinese military. He also has close ties to the CCP government. In many cases, he holds shares jointly with local Chinese government funds. A Reuters investigation found that between March of 2012 and December of 2024, Tan invested at least $200 million in these advanced manufacturing and chip companies in mainland China. Tan invested in SMIC, which was once unknown but is now China's largest chip manufacturer. Tan served on the company's board of directors for 15 years. Due to its close ties with the Chinese military, SMIC was sanctioned by the U.S. government in October of 2020, and Walden International withdrew from SMIC in January of 2021. In addition to SMIC, companies invested in by Walden International that have been added to the U.S. Department of Commerce entity list include military contractor Dapu Technology, surveillance company Hairu Innovation, drone surveillance technology company Yuntian Lai Feng, and military supplier Hongyao International, which has been involved in the Russia-Ukraine war. DaiJian Innovation is also on Walden International's investment list. DaiJian has been sanctioned by the U.S. government for providing drones to public security forces, which are used as surveillance tools by authorities in China. In July of 2023, the U.S. House of Representatives Special Committee on the Chinese Communist Party launched an investigation into 5 U.S. venture capital firms, including Walden International, focusing on their investments in Chinese AI, semiconductor, and quantum computing companies. The report noted that Walden International had the most investments in Chinese projects, with approximately 140 investments in chip companies involved in violations. At the same time, these investment companies also transferred their expertise to China, enabling the Beijing authorities to use U.S. funds and technology to expand digital authoritarianism, to strengthen the Chinese Communist Party's military capabilities, to intensify surveillance of the people, and to carry out genocide in Xinjiang. It can be said that Walden International is one of the most important forces behind the rise of China's technology industry. Intel was once the mainstay of the global chip manufacturing industry. From 1991 to 2021, Intel consistently ranked first in the global semiconductor industry. Intel's x86 architecture is the standard in the PC industry. From memory to PC to server CPUs, Intel was once the global leader in both chip design and manufacturing. However, due to multiple critical mistakes, Intel's former glory is now a thing of the past. Intel has missed wave after wave of technological revolution. It refused to supply chips for the iPhone, missing out on the mobile internet era. It abandoned early GPU research and development, falling behind in the AI wave. It refused to invest in OpenAI, missing the best opportunity to ride the AI wave. In the AI sector, NVIDIA currently holds the top spot, while Intel has no presence. It refused to adopt the latest EUV lithography technology, resulting in its manufacturing processes lagging behind TSMC and Samsung. At the same time, the company was also in turmoil internally. 4 CEOs came and went over a period of 10 years. Frequent personnel changes led to frequent changes in corporate strategy, ultimately causing Intel to fall behind the market changes and entering a vicious cycle, facing its most difficult moment in its 57-year history. On July 24th, Intel released its second quarter financial report for 2025, reporting revenue of $12.9 billion US dollars and a net loss of $2.9 billion. Compared with the same period last year, the loss increased by 81%. In the second quarter of last year, Intel had a net loss of $1.6 billion and a revenue of $12.8 billion. The company is also burdened with huge debt and has recently laid off about 15,000 employees. Faced with a difficult situation, Intel is currently striving for a strategic shift in order to revive itself. In the eyes of Intel's directors, Intel's advantage lies in its achievements in the Chinese market. Intel has huge commercial interest in the Chinese market. Intel entered China 40 years ago, and currently mainland China has become Intel's largest market outside the United States in terms of investment and institutional setup, and China has been the company's largest market for 9 consecutive years. Intel established its investment arm, Intel Capital, in 1991, focusing on 4 key areas within the Intel ecosystem: semiconductors, cutting-edge technologies, hardware, and cloud computing. Intel Capital manages assets exceeding $5 billion. Over the past 3 decades, Intel Capital has also been one of the most active foreign investors in Chinese artificial intelligence and semiconductor startups. Intel Capital has invested in over 120 Chinese companies and currently holds stakes in 43 Chinese technology startups. In August of 2023, Intel also collaborated with the Shenzhen municipal government to open an innovation center in Nanshan District, Shenzhen, focusing on AI, chip development, and edge computing technologies. It's not difficult to see that Intel's investment in China and Tan's investment in China follow the same trajectory. In July of 2023, the U.S. House of Representatives Special Committee on the Chinese Communist Party launched an investigation into several investment companies, including Qualcomm Ventures. Although Intel Capital was not included on the list, some industry insiders believe that Intel Capital is far more active in China than Qualcomm. On October 28, 2024, Intel announced a $300 million increase in registered capital for the Intel Products Company. In 2024, Intel's revenue in the Chinese market was approximately $15.532 billion. This represented a year-on-year increase of 4.6% and accounted for 29.2% of Intel's global sales, exceeding its sales revenue in the United States. However, Intel's overall financial situation was not optimistic. Total revenue for the 2024 fiscal year was $53.1 billion, a year-on-year decrease of 2%. Therefore, Intel places even greater emphasis on the Chinese market. On February 1st, 2025, Intel announced that AI PC devices equipped with Intel Core Ultra processors and Intel's special edition Goulet 2D AI accelerator chips have been optimized for China's DeepSeek model to better meet the needs of the Chinese market. Intel's decision to appoint Lip-Bu Tan as CEO may also be due to his extensive investment projects in China, earning him the reputation as the semiconductor executive in Silicon Valley who understands China best and who has the closest ties to the country. Previously, Tan was a director at Intel. Due to dissatisfaction with the company's bureaucratic culture, with outsourcing manufacturing strategy, with risk-averse mindset, and with lagging AI strategy, he abruptly resigned from his board position in August of 2024. At the time, he had been in the role for less than 2 years. One of Tan's tasks as Intel's new CEO is to reduce the workforce to 75,000, which is a 22% reduction from last year. He also promised that Intel would adopt a more rigorous investment approach. Tan may be able to continue to do well in the CCP market. However, Intel misjudged the intensity of competition between the U.S. and China in the field of technology. In August of 2024, the Biden administration issued an executive order restricting U.S. entities from investing in China's semiconductor and microelectronic quantum information technology and artificial intelligence sectors, and they required U.S. investors to report investments in restricted categories to the U.S. Treasury Department. This move further promoted the decoupling of the U.S. and China in the investment sector. After President Trump took office again, the U.S. government continued to strengthen technological restrictions on China, particularly in the areas of AI chips and semiconductor manufacturing equipment. In January of 2025, President Trump signed an executive order on America First trade policy, requiring the Department of Commerce and the State Department to assess the export control system to eliminate loopholes and to strengthen the technological blockade against China. And Intel chose Tan, who has close ties to the Chinese Communist Party, as its new CEO at this sensitive time. Intel occupies a central position in the U.S. semiconductor industry and it is of strategic importance, particularly in the area of national security and military technology. It's the only U.S. company that designs and manufactures advanced logic chips with manufacturing facilities located in multiple states across the country, giving it strong domestic production capabilities. This makes it a key partner for the U.S. government in promoting the return of the semiconductor industry and reducing dependence on Asian suppliers. In addition, Intel participates in multiple Department of Defense projects customizing cutting-edge chip solutions for military and intelligence applications. Furthermore, in September of 2024, the Biden administration passed the CHIPS Act, providing Intel with up to $3 billion in funding. This program, known as Secure Enclave, aims to ensure that the U.S. military has a reliable domestic microelectronics supply chain. The bill specifically states that if Intel receives subsidies under the bill, it will be prohibited from establishing new advanced semiconductor factories with a process node smaller than 28 nanometers in China or Russia for a period of 10 years. Therefore, Republican Senator Tom Cotton questioned whether Intel's actions could affect U.S. national security. Cotton wrote to Intel Chairman Frank Yeary, questioning Tan's relationship with Chinese companies and the recent criminal case against Tan's former employer, Cadence Design. Tan served as president and CEO of Cadence Design for many years. In July of this year, the company admitted to violating U.S. export controls by conducting business with the Chinese Communist Party's National University of Defense Technology on multiple occasions. It agreed to pay a $140 million fine and reached a plea agreement with the Department of Justice. It's worth noting that Intel declined to comment on Tan's investment in China. A spokesperson said that Tan had completed a questionnaire for directors and senior management, which required disclosure of any potential conflicts of interest. Walden International said that Tan had resigned from his position in its Chinese entity, but they did not provide any further details. According to data from the Asset Management Association of China, Tan is currently still the actual controller of the Huaxin Original Qingdao Investment Management Company, as well as the legal representative chairman and general manager of the Huaxin Shanghai Venture Capital Management Company. As an investor, you put your money where the profits are. This is understandable from a business perspective. However, business success is related to many non-business factors. For example, the policies of a particular country and changes in geopolitics. When the entire Western world is rallying against the CCP, maintaining close ties with the CCP may not be a good strategy. It doesn't matter what business you invest in. What matters most is understanding the intentions of the company. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family because everybody deserves to know the truth.